There is a wisdom inside you that is older than your name, older than your memories, older even than your bloodline. It does not speak in words, and it does not live in the noise of your thoughts. It moves beneath them, like a deep current under the surface of the sea. Carl Jung called this the unconscious, but to speak of it clinically is to strip away its fire. In truth, it is the hidden architect of your life, the silent hand that arranges your steps, pulls you towards certain people, repels you from others, and writes the themes that repeat in your story again and again. You may think your choices are purely rational, that your life is the sum of your conscious decisions, but look closer, and you will see patterns that cannot be explained by logic alone. Why do you find yourself drawn to the same kinds of relationships, the same battles, the same dreams that feel almost fated? Why does the same lesson keep knocking at your door in different disguises? It is because there is a wisdom working in you that does not care for convenience. It is not interested in comfort. It is interested in completion. This is the deep law Jung understood, that the psyche is always seeking wholeness, and it will drag you through fire if that is what it takes to awaken you to yourself. This wisdom hides in symbols in your dreams, in the images that linger in your mind, in the strange synchronicities that make you pause and say, that's too perfect to be coincidence. These are not accidents. They are the language of the soul, and the soul does not waste its words. Every image, every repeated theme, every inexplicable pull is a message, but like all messages in a foreign tongue, it requires interpretation. The tragedy is that most people dismiss these messages as noise. They brush off the dream that unsettled them. They ignore the gut feeling that warned them. They explain away the encounter that seemed too precise to be random. In doing so, they turn away from their own inner compass. Jung warned that when you silence this inner voice, it does not disappear, it speaks louder. If ignored long enough, it will speak through crisis. It will turn your life upside down, not to punish you, but to strip away the illusions you've built so you can no longer deny what you are meant to face. The hidden wisdom that shapes your soul is not polite. It is relentless. If you run from it, it will chase you through failed relationships, unfulfilled ambitions, and restless nights. If you numb it with distraction or addiction, it will haunt you in dreams, in sudden waves of emptiness, in the aching sense that something vital is missing. But if you turn toward it, if you meet it willingly, you step into a different way of living. The world begins to feel less random because you see the thread connecting everything. You notice how the challenge you face now mirrors the wound you carried as a child. You recognize how the person who frustrates you most is embodying a trait you've buried in yourself. Life stops being a series of disconnected events and starts to reveal itself as a story one in which you are both the protagonist and the author. And here is the paradox. This hidden wisdom is not something you gain. It is something you uncover. It has been in you since the beginning, but it was buried under the noise of expectations, the conditioning of society, the armor you built to survive. Shadow work, dream work, deep self-inquiry. These are not ways of adding to yourself. They are ways of removing what hides you from yourself. The more you listen to this inner architect, the more your life aligns not with what is easiest, but with what is true. And truth has a strange power. It may dismantle your plans, but it will never leave you empty-handed. It will replace the fragile comfort of safety with the unshakable strength of purpose. It will strip away the roles you've outgrown and hand you the crown of your real identity. But to wear that crown, you must be willing to descend, to go into the places where your conscious mind is afraid to look, to recover the exiled parts of yourself, to hear the wisdom that speaks not in shouts, but in whispers from the depths, because the soul will not compete with the noise of the world. It will wait in the silence, knowing you will come when you are ready or when you have nowhere else left to run. The silence is where it begins, not the superficial quiet of an empty room. but the kind of silence that strips you bare, where the distractions fall away, where the roles you play dissolve, and where you are left with nothing but the sound of your own being. Most people avoid it because in that silence there is nowhere to hide. You meet yourself without costume, without defense, without the flattering light of performance. And in that raw meeting, you feel the weight of everything you've been carrying, the dreams you abandoned because someone told you they were impractical, the parts of your personality you buried because they didn't fit the image you thought would be accepted, the instincts you smothered because you feared what they might make you do. This is why Jung said that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. They will drown in work, in relationships, in entertainment, in substances, in the endless scroll of other people's lives, all to avoid the stillness where the truth waits. Because once you hear it, you cannot pretend you didn't. And the truth will not flatter you. It will not tell you you're perfect as you are. It will tell you where you are small, where you are dishonest, where you are living as a shadow of yourself. But it will also tell you what you were made for. And that is the most terrifying knowledge of all, because it leaves you with a choice: remain as you are, or step into what you are called to become. The hidden wisdom shaping your soul does not bargain. It does not water itself down to make you comfortable. It speaks in the language of necessity. This is the path. Walk it or suffer the cost of turning away. And the cost is always higher than you think. Ignore it long enough, and the life you're living will feel like a suit 2 sizes too small, every movement strained, every breath tight, until one day you wake up suffocating in your own existence. But if you answer it, if you obey the pull, you will step into what Jung called the process of individuation, the lifelong unfolding of your true self. It is not an easy path. It is the dismantling of the false self you've built to survive, the burning away of the masks, the letting go of identities you thought were yours, but were only costumes stitched together from other people's expectations. And yet, with each layer you shed, something else emerges. The voice inside you grows clearer. The coincidences grow sharper. You meet people at the exact moment you need them, and they meet you at the exact moment they need you. Your challenges stop feeling like meaningless obstacles and start feeling like initiations trials meant to prepare you for the next stage of your life. This is the realm where synchronicity becomes your compass. You notice the book that falls open to the exact passage you needed. You pay attention when a stranger speaks the sentence that answers the question you didn't know how to ask. You follow the pull toward a place, a person, an opportunity, even if you cannot explain why, because you've learned that the hidden wisdom speaks not in explanations, but in invitation. And each time you follow, the path expands, not because the world has changed, but because you have. The labyrinth of your own psyche begins to open, revealing rooms you didn't know existed, rooms filled with power, creativity, resilience, and clarity that were always yours but had been locked away. This is not magic in the fairy tale sense. It is the natural result of aligning with what has always been guiding you. When the conscious mind and the unconscious soul walk in the same direction, the entire universe seems to reconfigure itself around that unity. But first, you must decide that you would rather live in truth, no matter how demanding, than in the comfort of a lie. Because the hidden wisdom will never shout over the noise you use to avoid it. It will only keep whispering, trusting that one day you will have the courage to stop and listen. And when you finally stop and listen, you will notice something strange. The voice you hear is not entirely unfamiliar. It has been with you since you were a child, before the world taught you to doubt it. It is the same voice that told you when something was wrong, even if no one else could see it. The same voice that sparked wonder when you first discovered beauty. The same voice that whispered to you in moments of danger, urging you to act before you even knew why. Some call it intuition. Jung would say it is the self, the totality of who you are, both known and unknown, conscious and unconscious. It is the blueprint of your wholeness, the inner image that holds the shape of the life you were meant to grow into. The self is not bound by the fears of your ego, nor is it seduced by the illusions of your ambition. It moves toward completion, toward integration, with the quiet certainty of a river finding the sea. And yet the ego resists. It fears what it cannot control. It clings to the familiar, even when the familiar is killing you. It whispers, "Stay where you are. At least here you know the terrain." But the hidden wisdom is patient. It will let you linger in the shallow waters for years, even decades, until the stagnation becomes unbearable. Only then will you understand that the current you've been resisting was never your enemy. It was your lifeline. This is why so many awakenings are born from breakdowns. We imagine transformation as a bolt of inspiration, but often it comes as collapse, the relationship that ends, the career that crumbles, the identity that no longer fits. These are not punishments. They are interventions. The hidden wisdom dismantles what you've built, not to leave you in ruins, but to clear the ground for what you are meant to build next. And here is the part that demands courage. Once you see this, you can no longer pretend to be powerless. You can no longer say, "I had no choice," because you recognize the ways you have ignored the invitations, silenced the instincts, postponed the necessary endings. You begin to see how your suffering has been the shadow side of your own avoidance. But you also begin to see the other side of the truth. You have never been alone in this work. The same current that dismantles what no longer serves you also carries you toward what does. The same hidden wisdom that exposed your false paths will illuminate your true one if you are willing to trust it. Trust is the key here. Not blind faith, but a deep agreement to follow the thread, even when the pattern is not yet visible. It is the willingness to act without the guarantee of outcome, to take the step without knowing the whole staircase. Jung understood that this is where the greatest transformations occur, not when you have certainty, but when you have alignment. The more you follow, the more you learn that life's events are not isolated, they are woven. The friend who calls you at the exact moment you needed hope. The closed door that forces you toward the opportunity you would never have considered. The apparent failure that turns out to be the only thing strong enough to break the chains you didn't know were holding you. Patterns emerge, and you begin to live in partnership with them. You stop forcing and start listening. You stop demanding answers and start recognizing signs. You stop treating life as something happening to you and begin meeting it as something unfolding through you. And this is when you realize the hidden wisdom that shapes your soul was never hiding from you. You were hiding from it. It was there in the stillness. It was there in the chaos. It was there in every dream you dismissed, in every coincidence you ignored, in every truth you pushed away, because it asked too much of you. It has been waiting, not for the perfect moment, but for you to decide that knowing yourself is worth more than protecting your illusions. The moment you decide that, something irreversible happens. The center of gravity inside you shifts. You are no longer living from the surface, from the quicksand of other people's approval, from the fragile scaffolding of borrowed beliefs. You begin to live from the core, from the deep bedrock of your own knowing. And here's what most people will never tell you. Living from the core is not easier. It is harder in the sense that it demands everything from you. It demands that you tell the truth even when a lie would protect your image. It demands that you let go of relationships, jobs, and identities that no longer serve your growth, even when you still love them. It demands that you stop hiding behind the small comforts of maybe someday and step fully into the discomfort of now. But what you gain is beyond comfort. It is freedom. Freedom from the exhausting performance of being someone you are not. Freedom from the silent panic of chasing a life that doesn't fit. Freedom from the subtle, constant ache of betraying yourself in small ways every day. This is the paradox Jung understood. To live authentically, you must first die symbolically. The old self, the one built to please, to survive, to conform, must burn, and it will feel like loss. But in that burning, the raw, unshaped truth of you is revealed. And the moment you meet that truth, you will see that it was never fragile. It was never incomplete. It was simply buried. From here, the hidden wisdom becomes less of a whisper and more of a conversation. You find yourself in dialogue with it, not as some mystical force outside of you, but as the deepest, most ancient part of yourself. It gives direction in symbols, in instincts, in uncanny timing, and you learn to speak back to it with action, with courage, with commitment. You start noticing how life rearranges itself around your alignment. The people you meet are not accidents, they are messengers. The challenges you face are not random, they are initiations. The opportunities that appear are not luck, they are the natural byproduct of walking your true path. And yet, this alignment will test you. The hidden wisdom will not let you drift back into unconsciousness without a fight. The moment you start compromising again, it will send you signs subtle at first, then undeniable. Restlessness, frustration, the slow creep of meaninglessness, not as punishment, but as a reminder. You didn't come this far to return to sleep. You begin to understand why so few live this way, because the truth asks everything of you, while illusion asks nothing. Illusion will let you drift forever. Truth will keep pulling you forward, stripping away what no longer fits, even when you're not ready to let go. But as the old falls away, something else begins to take shape. You notice moments of clarity, pure, undeniable knowing. You see the hidden connections between your past and your present, between your pain and your purpose. You recognize the precise way your wounds have carved out space for your gifts. And in those moments, you feel it, not just the wisdom, but the pulse of life itself moving through you. You are no longer chasing your path, you are being your path. You are no longer searching for meaning, you are living as meaning. The hidden wisdom that shapes your soul is not separate from you, it is you. The deepest you, the unshakable you, the you that was here before the world told you who to be. And once you live from that place, there is no going back. Once you begin to live from that place, you notice how the noise of the world no longer has the same pull. The opinions, the trends, the endless arguments that once felt urgent now seem like shadows on a wall, flickering shapes with no real substance. You start seeing how much of the world's chaos is just people projecting their own unclaimed darkness, fighting battles inside themselves and mistaking them for wars outside. And you feel no need to step into every fight, no need to correct every misunderstanding. You understand what Jung meant when he said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. You watch the triggers rise, you trace them back to their roots, and instead of reacting blindly, you use them as tools to deepen your own self-mastery. This is not detachment in the cold, apathetic sense. It is a deeper form of engagement. You are no longer being dragged by every wave of emotion. You are standing in the ocean itself, feeling the current, choosing how and when to move. And that choice is everything. Because life will still test you. You will still face betrayal, loss, disappointment. But where you once saw these as random cruelties, you now see them as mirrors, each one reflecting a part of yourself that is ready to be met, understood, and integrated. The hidden wisdom uses everything, every success, every failure, every heartbreak to shape you into what you were meant to be. And with each cycle, you grow less afraid of the unknown. You begin to realize that uncertainty is not the enemy. It is the birthplace of transformation. The old self needed certainty because it feared annihilation. The new self knows that annihilation is just another word for rebirth. This is why Jung called the process of individuation a coming to selfhood. It is not a straight path. It is a spiral. Each time you think you've arrived, life takes you deeper, revealing another layer of what you are. And each time, the wisdom inside you grows louder, not because it has changed, but because you have finally cleared enough space to hear it without distortion. One day, you catch yourself moving through the world with a kind of quiet authority, not the brittle confidence of ego, but the grounded certainty of someone who knows where they stand and why. You stop chasing validation because you've already validated yourself in the only place that matters within. You stop fearing endings because you've lived enough to know they are always doorways in disguise. And perhaps most importantly, you stop waiting for permission. You no longer need the world to agree with your vision before you act on it. You no longer need guarantees before you take the leap. You understand that the hidden wisdom does not deal in guarantees, it deals in alignment. And when you are aligned, you don't need certainty. You move anyway. This is the shift that changes everything. You are no longer navigating life by the map you were given. You are navigating by the compass you were born with. And the compass is not wrong. It never was. It was just buried under layers of noise, fear, and conditioning. Now that it's uncovered, you see that the path ahead is not about becoming something else. It is about becoming entirely yourself. The kind of self that cannot be replicated, cannot be manipulated, cannot be diminished. The kind of self that moves through the world with the quiet power of someone who is not searching anymore, because they have already found what they were looking for deep in the center of their own being. And when you reach that depth, the world meets you differently. Opportunities arrive without force. Conversations open doors you didn't even know existed. People sense something in you, an authenticity, a steadiness that they can't quite name but instinctively trust. You no longer have to shout to be heard. Your presence speaks before you do. This is not magic in the way fairy tales promise, but it is magic in the way life truly works. The hidden wisdom has always been working for you, but now, without the static of self-betrayal and confusion, its signals are clear. You respond faster, cleaner, with more precision, because you are no longer hesitating in the gap between what you feel and what you do. There's a quiet inevitability to the way things unfold now. You begin to see that alignment doesn't mean the absence of struggle. It means that even the struggles have meaning. They are no longer senseless detours. They are the exact challenges needed to sharpen you, to deepen you, to strip away the last illusions still clinging to your skin. And here is where most people turn back. They taste this freedom, but they recoil from its cost. Because the truth is, once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. Once you know what is false in your life, you can't unknow it. And the price of living in truth is letting go, sometimes all at once, sometimes piece by piece, of everything that no longer aligns. The hidden wisdom is merciless in this way. It will not allow you to keep what keeps you small. It will not let you hold onto the relationship that dims your light, the work that drains your soul, the habits that dull your edge. It will keep pressing, keep pulling, until the weight of staying the same becomes heavier than the risk of change. But in that surrender, something profound happens. You realize that nothing essential can be taken from you. People may leave, titles may vanish, structures may crumble, but the core remains untouched. And from that core, everything can be rebuilt stronger, truer, more alive than before. And with that realization comes an unshakable calm. You no longer live in fear of loss, because you understand that loss is not the opposite of life. It is one of its primary engines. Just as a forest burns to make way for new growth, parts of you must burn to make space for the life that is waiting. This is the cycle the hidden wisdom has been guiding you through since the beginning. Death, rebirth, expansion, integration. Over and over, deeper and deeper, until nothing is left but the truest expression of who you are. And here is the quiet miracle. You begin to love the process. Not in a sentimental way, but in the way a warrior loves the training that keeps them sharp. You stop craving the illusion of a life without challenges. You start craving the kind of challenges that pull more of you into the light. Because you finally understand the hidden wisdom that shapes your soul is not here to make life easy. It is here to make you whole, and wholeness is worth everything it asks. And so it comes to this, the final truth, that all the signs, the dreams, the synchronicities have been pointing toward from the beginning. You were never meant to spend your life as a fragment, playing a role the world assigned you. chasing shadows that could never make you whole. You were meant to stand in the full weight of your being, to walk as someone who has faced themselves and come back with every lost piece. The hidden wisdom has always been your inheritance. It was there in your first breath, it will be there in your last, and it will guide you through every transformation in between. You do not have to earn it, you do not have to beg for it, you only have to listen, and when it speaks, obey without hesitation. There will be moments when that obedience feels like leaping off a cliff. There will be times when it strips you bare, when it dismantles the life you thought you needed. But in its place, it will give you something indestructible, a life that is yours in every breath, every choice, every heartbeat. And when you walk that path, your path, you will know a freedom that cannot be bought, a peace that cannot be taken, a strength that cannot be faked. You will move through the world unshaken, not because it is gentle, but because you are whole. This is the hidden wisdom's final gift. Not a promise that life will be easy, but the unshakable knowing that you can meet it fully, fiercely, without losing yourself. And when you live from that place, you are not just surviving the story, you are writing it.